It's now time for your favorite in-depth basketball show, Full Court Press, with the myth, the legend, Raindrops Glay!
Whenever you're ready.
You're tuned in to Full Court Press. I'm Justin Raindrops Goulet, joined as always by the Nard Dogg, David Bernardi. How's it going today, my friend?
It's going fantastic, sir.
Excellent, excellent. A lot of great stuff happening in the NBA. A lot of controversy in the NBA. We're going to talk about Donald Sterling, of course. That's the hot topic these days. I see you're shaking your fist right now, David. You're pretty upset with this guy, I guess.
Yeah, he's a very bad man.
He is, yeah. The comments he's made, like I said, we'll get more into that later on in the show. We also have an interview with Audley Stephenson of the National Basketball League of Canada. You guys, I hope you enjoy this interview. He's a lot of fun to talk with, a really nice guy, and he knows his basketball. A good episode planned ahead. You know, myself and David, we actually went, we took part in the madness that is Jurassic Park. Maple Leaf Square in Toronto outside the Air Canada Centre. It's turned into Jurassic Park for the Toronto Raptors playoff run. What did you think about our Game 3 experience in the park?
For the amount of rain that we got that day, I'm surprised a lot of people showed up.
There was quite a few people. It was a rainy day. We definitely got soaked, but we're Raptors fans, man. Like it's definitely worth it. A lot of fun. I had never been to Jurassic Park. I'd never been to Maple Leaf Square when the Leafs were in the playoffs last year. I didn't get a chance to go. It was a blast, man. It was really cool because we went in and they have it all set up. There's the marquee with the Northern Uprising and We the North slogan everywhere. They basically turn it, like I said, it's called Jurassic Park. They turn it into Raptors, like Raptors Land, Raptorville. It's great to see. We got a free T-shirt, which was cool. I didn't know
Northern
about
Uprising,
that.
wasn't it?
Northern Uprising, yes, sir. The Northern Uprising shirt. It was just such an amazing experience because I felt as though I was actually in Brooklyn watching the game live. It's like because the screen that they have there, the game shown on at Jurassic Park, it's so big you feel like you're sitting courtside.
Especially when all the fans are cheering defense, defense.
You really get into that environment. You are actually watching the game live. I considered that my fourth live Raptors game of the year, and I think that's a fair assessment to make. That was so you had a good time at the game, I guess.
Yeah, it was awesome seeing Cabby.
Yeah, Cabby was leading the charge on stage, getting the fans all jacked up and ready for the game.
Got a like from him on Instagram.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
That's good. Good times for sure. It was the Game 3, the game that we actually watched at the park. It was probably at that point in the series was the best game the Raptors played, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because even with the Game 2 win in Toronto, the Raptors still had so many turnovers. What was it? In the first two games, it was about 59 turnovers? Or is that first three games?
First three games.
First three games. Okay, yeah. 59 turnovers. That's not what you want to do in the playoffs. You don't want to become the Toronto turnovers because that's just going to lose you games. Not good to see, even though they lost that Game 3 that we were at.
Damn, Patrick Patterson.
Yeah, you know what? Patrick Patterson.
Such a good game, and then misses 2 free throws at the end.
That really upset me, man. It does sting for sure. I was tempted to go on Twitter and just send a hateful message to Patrick Patterson, but at the end of the day, I was like, man, Patrick Patterson definitely feels horrible about missing those free throws. So no fault on him. He missed the free throws. It's what's in the past is in the past.
Damn PP.
The Pat man, right?
That's a chant I gave him at one Raptor game we went to.
Drake night. Drake night was good times, man.
Fantastic times.
Drake night was an amazing game. We beat Brooklyn that game.
That was playoff atmosphere too.
It was, especially because Drake was in the building. Speaking of Drake, we saw Drake.
Yes, we did
during Game 3 that night. He was actually watching down on us spectators. He was up on a balcony
right above Real Sports Bar.
Yeah, right above Real Sports Bar. Girl, I guess he was in a hotel room or something. Watch it down on us. It was funny when people realized Drake was actually there watching the game as part of this whole environment. Everyone went crazy.
You could check out some of the videos he took on Instagram on his Champagne Poppy. Is that his Instagram?
Yeah, Champagne Poppy. It's funny because we could technically say we were in a Drake video.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool to think about that. It was an amazing game. Sadly, the Raptors lost Game 3, but it is what it is. That's what happens. Just like you were saying, great atmosphere, and as you mentioned, the amount of people that were there for such a rainy night was amazing. And your brother showed up, so that was cool. So shout out to your brother.
Shout out to Andrew Bernardi.
Andrew Bernardi, how's it going, man? Yeah, a lot of fun. I loved it, and I want to keep on seeing playoff games in Jurassic Park. Just be a part of that environment. All those super fans. You actually made some friends at the game, which is kind of funny.
Oh, I made a lot of friends. This one guy who he said he was telling me if the Raptors win, we should all sing "Oh Canada."
Now that would have definitely been a sight to see. I think we probably would have.
That would have been newsworthy.
It definitely
Yeah.
would have been newsworthy. Like, that would have been absolutely crazy. But of course, they lost Game 3. But that's what happens. That was still their best game because they did limit the turnovers in that game. They came back from a big deficit in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't cut it at the end.
Just some poor turnovers and officiating.
Yeah, just some. We talked about the NBA referees in the last episode of Full Court Press. I don't want to get too into it for this one, but you can see that depending where the teams are playing, you could see the focus shift from one team to another, where the NBA refs do. In a way, it looks like they are helping one of the teams. They're helping them win. But you, as a player, like a note to all the players, you gotta fight through that. You got to break through the whole referee favoring another team thing. You can't let that determine whether you win or lose. You can't let that destroy your confidence. You just got to play through that, right?
I'll be honest, the reffing has been even throughout the series, but just some of the calls they give for the Nets, it's really weird.
Yeah, some of them were absolutely ridiculous. I even in Game 4, Sean Livingston, he after the whistle, it was either after the whistle was blown or the Nets grabbed a rebound, he shoved Gravis Vasquez to the ground. It was obvious. You could see him push Gravis Vasquez to the ground. No call was made, but a defensive call was called in the Toronto Raptors on the other end of the court.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see that.
But the Raptors actually got some favor from the refs at the end. 3 straight offensive fouls by the Nets.
That was very interesting to see, and that definitely helped them pick up the Game 4 victory.
That was really shocking.
It was, but I don't mind that at all. It's good
I love that. I was jumping and cheering.
Now, I don't want to say completely favor the Raptors because that's very hypocritical. A very hypocritical thing to say. But if the officiating is balanced, then I'm happy with that. If there's 10 calls in a quarter on the Nets, 10 calls on the Raptors, whatever, that's fine because it's fair. That's the game of basketball right there. But that's just the way it is. We're going to see how the referees play a part in the rest of this series and all the other series in the NBA playoffs. Speaking of the playoffs, what do you think of the postseason so far?
So how about that Indiana and Atlanta series?
Indiana is struggling. The number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think the Hawks are actually going to win this series.
Yeah, it's just Game 6 is in Atlanta.
So they have the added advantage there on home court. And as we're doing this episode right here, as we're in the studio, Atlanta's actually up 3-2. So it's going to be interesting, depending on when Full Court Press listeners tune into this episode. It's going to be interesting to see if Atlanta has moved on, if the series is tied, where that series is at, because it's a crazy one.
I know Indiana is struggling, but to be down 30 points to the Atlanta Hawks at home in Game 5, come on.
The Atlanta Hawks barely made it into the playoffs. It's ridiculous, man.
So how about Roy Hibbert? 0 points in 12 minutes, 0 rebounds.
Roy Hibbert is basically a shadow of what he could be, because Roy Hibbert could just dominate. He could take over the series, but he's not doing anything.
He just has attitude problems.
You know, it's crazy to see a team like the Atlanta Hawks, who barely made it into the playoffs, just taking it to the Indiana Pacers. It's almost like the Washington-Chicago series, because you look at the Chicago Bulls finish 4th, Washington Wizards 5th. So there's not a big difference in the standings right there, but Chicago ended the season off so strong, and people thought they were going to blaze right through the Wizards, but the Wizards are taking control of the series.
The Wizards are too talented.
The Wizards, a lot of people underestimate the Washington Wizards, but they've got great players. They've got Marcin Gortat, John Wall, of course, Bradley Beal, Trevor Ariza.
I feel like Nene was injured during the season. They had a bunch of other injuries too. Beal.
Of course.
If they were healthy throughout the season, they win more than 44 games.
I think so, yeah. They do. They do much better in the regular season if they're all at 100%.
They would probably have that 4th seed instead of Chicago.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise you.
Heck, they probably would have had more win than the Raptors.
You never know what could happen.
Hate to say
right?
it, but
it wouldn't. Yeah, you never know what could happen because there's a lot of talent on that team. Speaking of talent, Miami Heat swept the Charlotte Bobcats. They're moving on to the second round. So that's not a huge shocker because Al Jefferson was injured. That's
He's
the
their
biggest,
he's their MVP.
he's the biggest weapon for the Bobcats. I'm surprised he didn't make the All-Star team this year.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising. I think it had to do with the Bobcats' record at the time.
That would make sense. But look at them. They finished 7th. They did bring some fight to Miami, but at the end of the day, they were swept, and Miami's going to the second round, and Charlotte, their season is over. But I think if the Bobcats had Al Jefferson, then they would have
healthy Al Jefferson.
The series would have been maybe 4-2 Miami. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
I don't think it would go to 7 games even with Al Jefferson, but Bobcats could have at least won 1 or 2 games, right?
Yeah, and Bobcats, it was basically Jefferson and Kemba Walker all season carrying that team.
Yeah, and then you got Kemba Walker without Al Jefferson. It's kind of tough to take over a game. That's just the way it is. Crazy things happening in the Eastern Conference. Of course, we touched on the Raptors in Brooklyn. Let's talk about the Western Conference. San Antonio Spurs, Dallas Mavericks, Vincent Lamar Carter.
Yes, Game 3.
Oh, God, that was beautiful. That shot was 13 years in the making.
Imagine that happened 13 years ago, though.
Raptors may be NBA champions. Probably not, but you never know what could happen, right?
They could have taken on the Bucks, beat them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. But that shot by Vince Carter in Game 3, the game-winning buzzer beater, identical to the shot that he took with the Raptors in 2001.
That was pretty emotional for me. When I saw that on TV, I freaked out.
There's a really cool video that you actually shared with me that I suggest everyone check out. It's on, what was the Facebook page? It was Hoops Talk?
Yeah, Hoops Talk.
Hoops Talk, the Facebook page. Check that out. They got a great video comparing Vince Carter's shot with the Toronto Raptors 13 years ago, which he missed in the playoffs against the 76ers.
Yeah, it's an awesome montage.
Yeah, it's incredible, and they compare it with the shot that he hits in Game 3 against the Spurs, the game winner. Huge shot. I think Dallas has a good. I love Dallas. I want to say Dallas is going to beat the Spurs, but I don't know if the Spurs might be too strong at this point. I think
Dallas is one of my favorite teams outside the Raptors, but San Antonio is way too talented, and this could honestly be the Spurs' last chance at glory, winning the championship.
I think so because
with Popovich, Duncan, Ginobili, Parker.
Yeah, for sure, because they're bringing in the younger guys onto that roster. Now, speaking of young, Portland Trailblazers and Houston Rockets, Portland is moving on to the second round. I'm calling it right now. It's going to happen.
Portland Trailblazers? Yeah, for sure.
LaMarcus Aldridge has been impossible to stop. He's been one of the best big men in the playoffs. I'm a huge fan of his. I've always liked the Trailblazers. He's just been killing it in this series.
This has honestly been my second favorite series of the playoffs besides the Raptors-Nets.
Yeah?
Because every single game has come down to the wire.
Been very exciting for sure. Now, exciting too, but in a different way, Oklahoma City Thunder versus Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are the underdogs in this one, but as we're sitting here in studio, the series is tied at 2 games apiece. How do you think that's going to go?
I'm not going to lie. I'm cheering for the Grizzlies. If there was a pick for an upset, I would say this is the series.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I like the Grizzlies. It's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward.
I just wish they would have pulled that game off on Saturday.
That would have been great. Absolutely
Overtime,
amazing. Yeah. But it's just the way it goes, right? Another series, the last one I want to talk about, which leads us into our next topic of discussion, is the Golden State Warriors versus Los Angeles Clippers. I'm cheering for the Golden State Warriors.
As am I.
Yeah, because I just love the Warriors. I just want to leave it at that. I don't want to get too in-depth with this series because I want to talk about the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, Mr. Donald Sterling, a complete fool, an idiot. Honestly, tell the listeners of Full Court Press about the situation with Donald Sterling.
So basically, Donald Sterling's girlfriend on the side, he has a wife.
Yep.
Anyways, his girlfriend was recording a phone conversation with the two of them, and he brought up some racial comments.
Very, very severe racial comments, just straight up hardcore racism.
Such as he doesn't want Magic Johnson to attend his games, or her friends, for that matter.
That's terrible. He's demeaning these people, and one of the things he said, he doesn't want African Americans to show up to Clippers games.
Yes, sir.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's not shocking to me. I've known this guy's been racist for years.
But it's like now it comes to light.
Donald Sterling used to have ladies come in to the Clippers locker room and tell them to look at the players' beautiful bodies. The Houston Rockets owner, he said something ridiculous. He said that the Clippers players should all become free agents.
and just leave Los Angeles and the
Yes.
Clippers become no more.
That just makes no sense.
A lot of players have. Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. I don't think it's actually going to happen. But a lot of players, as I mentioned, have very outraged at this, which makes total sense. Some of these guys have taken to Twitter. Of course, Twitter is a very powerful medium, and they've taken to Twitter to throw out their thoughts. Like, what did there's something LeBron James said. James said, "There is no room for Donald Sterling in our league." So that says something right there. The best player in the league. He doesn't support this at all. Of course not.
Kobe Bryant as well. He said, no, he should not continue owning the Clippers. No chance, no way, no how.
And LeBron also said that he would actually think about sitting out if you played for an owner like Donald Sterling. Those weren't his exact words, but he would actually think of sitting out the game if Donald Sterling owned the Miami Heat. LeBron James would be sitting out a playoff game.
I just feel like that is ridiculous, how players are reacting to this. Players should just forget about this and play with each other. Like, they're the team.
The players come together and play your game in the playoffs.
Just don't play for the owner. Play for the fans.
Exactly. Play for the fans. It's a good way to go out there. Good final message. Now, I want to bring it something a little bit more positive. On the lighter side, Charles Barkley, he recently had some more troubles pronouncing Jonas Valanciunas' name. How did he pronounce his name on TNT?
Are we going back to February? He said Jonas
Valanciunas, yeah.
Valanciunas.
Jonas Valen hot sauce or something like that. No, just not too long ago. I believe it was this past weekend. He said Jonas Van Ventuini or something like that. And he still can't get the name right.
Come on, Chuck.
Come on, Sir Charles. Step it up, man. I love Charles Barkley, and it's absolutely hilarious. And it's great because he loves Toronto, but he can't pronounce our star center's name. I don't think he's ever going to be able to properly pronounce it.
He had this awesome game on Sega back in the day. I think it was called Shut Up and Jam. Barkley Shut Up and Jam or something like that. It was hilarious.
I'm going to actually have to look that game up. That sounds amazing. But right now, Mr. Bernardi, we have something really special on Full Court Press. We have an interview. This is a fun time. I love when we have interviews. I love chatting ball with some great people, some of the very special guests we have on Full Court Press. We have Mr. Audley Stephenson from the National Basketball League of Canada. I'm really excited for this one. So without further ado, check it out. NBL Canada's Audley Stephenson. Good sir, how are you today?
I'm great, man. Lots of sun shining outside. Good to be in the studio with you. Thanks.
I know. I'm really excited. We've been talking a lot on Twitter back and forth throughout the NBLC season, so I'm really, really looking forward to chatting with you about basketball and some big moves with the NBL Canada lately, a new big TV deal. We'll get to that later. But first, I want you to tell listeners, what exactly do you do? What's with the National Basketball League of Canada?
Well, the National Basketball League of Canada, we've just finished up our third season and really excited about what's transpired on the court and the excitement that's really been generated about the game. The level of talent everyone gets really excited about because it's really high. It's probably, going to this season, I call it the most competitive season that we'd ever see.
Oh, yeah?
And it was exactly just that from start to finish.
Wow.
We had a great finals, 7-game series between the Island Storm, who returned back to the finals, and the Windsor Express. Again, when any game, any series that goes to 7, you get excited about. But this one was really, really competitive. Lots of talent, lots of great plays, just back and forth. So my role in all this and all this excitement with this league is really to help promote and move the product along, and try and expose it to many people as possible in whether it's in the Twitter sphere or the social media realm. But really try to do a lot of promotion and tell the great stories that exist within this league.
Exactly. It's an incredible league. It's Canada's own professional basketball league. When I found out about the league, I was psyched because I had no idea Canada had its own league. It's huge.
Right.
What do you think about the Canadian basketball movement as it grows along through the years?
Well, I mean, look, there's an explosion happening. I think everyone can identify that and recognize that and see that's happening right in front of us. You can go back to last year's NBA draft with what Mr. Bennett was able to do and make history, and it's the growth of the game in the grassroots level. And it's slowly, more and more kids are playing, and it's becoming front and center. You're sitting here with your Raptors shirt on.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone's excited about what the Raptors are doing in the playoffs. I mean, look, we talked about the square and how Phil it is for fans just excited about basketball. So I think, right now is a really prime time if you're a basketball fan. And I mean, for myself, it's the only sport I ever loved. And so to see this, this percolation growing so nicely, it's really exciting for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Basketball has and always will be the sport that I truly love. It was always my number one passion. passion, and to see it grow day by day, year by year, it almost brings tears of joy to my to my eyes. It's amazing to see. Now, how long have you been involved in basketball? How long have you loved basketball for?
It's all like I said, my whole life. The only sport I've ever known. I mean, I played as a kid. I played in school. I played after school. I was never really great enough to achieve any high levels of success, but it was still always a fun game for me. I've coached young kids. My daughter, she started playing at 7. I coached her. I coached my son. So I've always been exposed to the sport. I also do a bit of motivational speaking, and a lot of the stuff I used to talk about, it lessons from the game of basketball and the things that you can learn from the game, and teamwork and working together, and what it means to be a point guard, and the leadership lessons that you can take from that. So basketball has meant a lot to me, and it's something that's always been a part of me.
I think a lot of people throughout Canada and the entire world, they feel the exact same way as you, because basketball, it just brings people together. Now, you mentioned that you grew up with basketball, you grew up playing. Let's talk a little bit about your playing career. How long did you play for, and what teams did you play for? What was that all like?
I was a playground legend where I grew up. I grew up in the west end of Toronto, so the Dufferin, Bloor area, Bloor West Village area, and a high European population, and I grew up with the Manny Cabrals of the world, and those were my buddies. That's who I grew up with and knew. And so whether playing soccer, I was playing basketball, and I did it throughout high school. I went to Bloor Collegiate, and I played there. And it's funny, I probably played about 2 years in high school, and then I just kind of, when I was a young kid, I really didn't totally grasp the importance of the sport and what it could do for you, and the commitment and working hard and all those sorts of things, those good things that we teach to our kids now. I really didn't get it. So in terms of my playing career, it was more just on a superficial level, because I never really took it as serious as I probably could have or should have, until much later on I realized, oh wow, this was an opportunity. But I've always, again, the affinity for the game was always there, and I've always had an interest in media. So and media and broadcasting. So when I saw an opportunity to sort of marry the two, that's sort of where it blew up for me. And I said, okay, this really can work. And that's kind of how, again, my attachment to the game has always been there.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about your involvement with the media. What did you do after basketball ended? Did you go to broadcasting school, or how did that all come about?
It's funny. I sort of followed my path, and I don't think there's never a straight and narrow, from A to B, and you sort of take zigzags on the way to get where you want to do.
It's like the game of basketball. It's all over the place.
Well, it is, right? Like there's not just always a straight and narrow line.
Exactly.
But what's really neat for me is when I stopped and looked back and sort of all the experiences, all the things that I've done, it sort of made sense. So I was an intern at the Score, and I learned about the back end of the sort of broadcasting industry, and I learned about what archiving is and how editing and all that kind of stuff does. And at the time, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. When I look back, some of those skills I was able to draw from. I mean, so there's been a lot of different things I've taken that I've been, okay, yeah, this can work. And so as I went through that path of mine, the first real opportunity I had to marry my love for basketball and the broadcasting is when I started my own podcast about 7-8 years ago. The Breakdown Show with Dave and Audley. To this day, I call it a legendary podcast because we did a lot of good stuff with that. Had a lot of NBA guys come through. Really have a lot of fun dissecting the game and having a lot of fun with it. We used to go down to Raptors games and interview Raptor players and bring across the board, all kinds. So that was always kind of my involvement. And then while I was doing that, lo and behold, the National Basketball League of Canada springs up, and it just so happened that the league started the year the NBA was in that lockout.
Oh God, that was a terrible time for us basketball
fans. I was struggling, and so when the NBL Canada came along, I was like,
goodness.
Wow, something. And I got involved and just been hooked ever since. And as time has gone on, I've done more and more. And I mean, I guess I'm the official or unofficial, depending on where you stand, the unofficial full voice or face of the league, because I'm the one that's really out there helping promote and push the brand. And I embrace it because I do love the sport, and I do love what the league is doing. My son, 7 years old, he says he wants to grow up and be a player in the NBLC.
Oh, that's amazing.
So for me, that it is amazing. It really really tells me how powerful this league is and what it's doing in terms of young people and really inspiring, giving hopes and dreams.
Exactly. It helps them, on the court, the skills that they learn on the court, they take them off the court, and, that really helps them in life. Yeah. Now, Audley, I want to talk about how you got involved with the NBLC. How did that all come about? And do you have any advice for aspiring broadcasters, anyone who would like to get involved with the league?
What I'd suggest, and not even just the league, in any avenue you go down and think you have an interest in, you've got to really be clear on what it is that you want to do. And I say this, although it sounds really like pretty simple, you should know. But it's like I'm constantly and often approached by people that say, hey, I want to do this, I want to get involved with the league. Okay, what do you want to do? Anything. Well, I think when you're at that point where you're still talking about anything, I think you need to take some time and step back and really get a laser sort of light focus in terms of what anything means, because that could be really anything, and that doesn't help someone that's trying to figure out how you can best jump in. And so it's really important understanding sort of what you can bring to the table. Yeah, and sometimes when you're that focused and that laser, like I said, you might be able to bring something and meet a need I didn't even know I had. Right? When I got involved with the National Basketball League of Canada, no one said, "Hey, we need someone to help promote our brand, and we need someone to help market our players, and we need to help someone tell the story of the league." I just started doing it. Yeah. And it was at that point I realized, hey, wait a second, this could be an avenue. This could be something we can explore. This is something that's helpful and beneficial to us. So I think the key is, before you start figuring out, I want to work for them, and I want to do this, figure out what it is that you have to offer. What is it you're really, really good at, and then move forward from there, and put that out there. The other thing I would strongly recommend is, sometimes, and I know it's tough to tell people you got to pay your dues, but I think there's a little bit of that has to come into play. You have to be able to demonstrate what you can do. Look, people are always getting approached with offers. I can do this for you if you pay me this. I can do that for you if you pay. But they haven't demonstrated that value. Yeah. So I think the key is you got to demonstrate the value, what you can offer, what you can bring, how important I can be to you, and then go from there.
Now, I know you have your own media company, Odd Man Media. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So what I started to do is I sat back and I looked at all the things I was involved with. I had done podcasting, like I mentioned earlier. I'd written I'd co-authored one book and written a book on my own.
Oh wow! What was the title? The title of that book?
So the book I co-authored was based on the podcast, The Breakdown Show with David and Audley. And what we essentially did, and what was really neat, is that we sort of step back and look at the body of all the work that we had done. And again, we had 300 or 400 guests that we've had on that just really said a lot of insightful and really funny things. And we actually assembled all the quotes into one book. Wow. So it's called Basketball Talk the Way It Should Be.
Oh, that's cool.
And really the whole idea of basketball talk is just, hey, having fun, getting loose with it, having a good time. So that was a book that we co-authored. And then I wrote my own motivational quote book called Gifts from Others. And actually my website is giftsfromothers.com.
Okay.
For those who want to check that out. And it's just a collection of just motivational, aspiring quotes that were important to me and that I've used and I've shared with people. And, I've had many come back and say, hey, there's really good value in that. Yeah. And that's when I sort of got the idea, well, let me collect them and put them all together in this one compilation. So, again, I got involved with authoring and, again, podcasting and speaking, video production, that kind of stuff. And I wanted to encapsulate everything. I wanted to find a way to capture everything under one umbrella that, if someone said, who the heck's Audley Stephenson? We'll go to oddman.com and figure that out. So that's where the Odd Man Media came around. I very much, it's very active. And one of the things I do with it a fair amount, not as much as I like to, but I certainly endeavor to really try and capture really neat stories. I recently did a feature on a couple players that actually played in NBL Canada, but talking about their impact in the community. Gabe Freeman, formerly with the London Lightning, and talking about what he's doing with young people. Yeah. So really trying to tell great stories and important stories, and those that people can find inspiration, motivation from.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, Audley, I want to talk about this NBL Canada season. Yes. What did you think about the season overall?
I think this was the greatest season this league has ever had in its 2-year existence. The level of talent, like I said before, it was just on another level. We saw this year competition that we again, like I said, another level. The London Lightning, the back-to-back champs the first 2 years, and they very much came into this season looking to three-peat, and they looked strong enough, and considering the talent they had assembled, it was quite possible. But what we saw, and I think, and this isn't just exclusive to the NBL Canada, but what you saw is that the level of talent also increased to compete with what London was doing. And so you saw teams like Windsor that really, really were strong. And
of course,
they brought back half their roster from last season, so that continuity still was in place.
Exactly.
And familiarity and the systems and knowing who, what the coach wants and how to run it, all those things still existed. So you saw that. You saw newcomers like the Brampton A's who surprised many because for the half of the season they led the Central Division.
They were dominating.
They absolutely were, and they did it with just a lot of hard work. And their hashtag is every day, and they came out and worked hard every single day. And then over in the Atlantic Division, the St. John Mill Rats who won that division, then they very much surprised people because they were for the longest time they were seen as the underdogs.
Yeah.
And they kind of came back and they won their division. So right across the board, you saw just, again, lots of the competitive level was somewhere else that I haven't seen in the 3 years of existence of this league. I hadn't seen up to this level at this point. So it was a lot of fun.
It's awesome. Like, there's a lot of great stories in this league because when people think basketball, the first thought that comes to people's mind is the NBA. But the National Basketball League of Canada, you said, has these teams that step it up and they bring that strong competition. A lot of fun to watch. How can fans, how can they join the NBL Canada movement?
All the games are streamed, and the reality is that if you're a new product, a new entity, you want people to be familiar with your brand, so you make it as accessible as possible. So all the games are streamed. In fact, all the games are archived. So just because the game's already happened and you missed it, you can go back and check it out because they're all there. And again, this is very, very accessible. And the National Basketball League of Canada, NBLC Canada, NBLCanada.ca is a website, and you can get connected to all the games, all the content. I've got a ton of feature interviews on the website that I've done. We just had our All-Star weekend in Charlottetown on Easter weekend, and I was out there and again just doing a lot of promotion of the league and talking to a lot of players and hosting some of the events, a slam dunk contest, a 3-point shootout, and so it's a lot of fun. And I want to underscore one important thing with this league that sort of separates itself from the NBA, and I think it does a good job in separating itself. Is, well, first off, the NBA, this league is not trying to take it over or compare.
Exactly,
that's on a whole other level, and I think but the reality is that there are a limited number of jobs that you're going to get. Like, I mean, we all want to be NBA players. I know I did when I was a kid.
I know, same here.
But the reality is, it wasn't for me, and I wasn't there. And I mean, you and I are in the same boat.
We're right here talking.
we're talking about our dreams, but we weren't there, right? But what the NBL Canada does, it provides another option. You think a great story is Alex Superman Johnson played with the Mississauga Power. The fact that he is able to play at home and his family, his friends
amazing.
Can see him play. I mean, the option for a lot of players oftentimes, once you finish that college level, is you go overseas.
Exactly.
Right? And your family and friends, they may never get a chance to ever see you play live in your prime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, players out there potentially have that option, and then players from the U.S. as well. It's a lot closer to home. We talk about going overseas, and some have the wherewithal to do that. Others just don't wanna. They don't want a new culture. They don't want to learn a new language.
Yeah, they just want to keep it easy.
Exactly. So, really, what the NBL Canada does, it provides a legitimate option.
Exactly. Alex Superman Johnson, he's a great player.
Good
so
guy.
much fun
Good
to
guy.
watch. He's a really nice guy. We've had him in studio before.
Good guy.
Now, you mentioned All-Star Weekend. How did that all go down?
It was great. I mean, it's a lot of fun. We were in Charlottetown, PEI, and when we talk about what the NBL Canada does, another unique facet of it is the fact that it exists in these small communities that may never get it. Charlottetown, PEI will never ever have an NBA team.
No,
it will not.
That's a sad fact.
And it's reality. It won't happen. However, when you look at the way they embrace these teams, I mean, these players oftentimes, if they're not playing a game or if they're not at practice, they're involved in the community somehow. They're in a book club. They're reading to kids.
It's great to see. I love that.
They're helping the community. They're at a food bank. I mean, they're doing all sorts of things to really show and prove to the community that we're not just here to play basketball. We're here to exist and be a part of your community. And I've always loved that because out of that comes some really, really good stories.
Oh, for sure. Now, how do you feel about you got to see a lot of the country? You're a well-traveled man working with the NBLC. How does that feel?
It's nice. I mean, the opportunity, it was my first time in Charlottetown as an example. And
Oh, wow.
it was really nice to actually be there and even traveling there, driving to the arena, the landscape, the communities. But the thing that resonates with me the most was the hospitality of the people. I mean, just great folk that just love to treat people well. And they certainly did that. And I think for me, having not experienced that before, it was great to see.
I want to thank Audley Stephenson again for joining me. That was part 1 of the interview. And tune in to next week's episode of Full Court Press for part 2. We're going to talk about a big TV deal that the NBLC just signed up for. I'm really excited for the league. I love this league. You guys should definitely go check it out. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Full Court Press. David Bernardi, what's your Twitter? Where can people find you online?
At the Nard Dogg 88. That's with 2 G's at the end.
There you go. The Nard Dogg way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff,
the Nard
man.
Dogg World Order.
There you go. Thank you guys for tuning in. And you got the Nard Dogg's Twitter. My Twitter is at JustinGlay21. Both of us tweet about basketball, sports, everything you want to read about, hopefully. So give us a follow, check it out. And if you want to tune in to past episodes of Full Court Press, go to Mixcloud.com. Just type in Full Court Press on the search bar, and there you go. Click the subscribe button. Much appreciated. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week.
You've just been hit with Full Court Press. Courtesy of your host, the man, the myth, the legend, Justin Raindrops Glay.